Welcome back to another Boomer Bust Editorial. I'm your host, Terry, and today I'm talking about what's going on with the NFL coaches. Because, and I've talked and mentioned this before, but when Mike McCarthy got fired, but now that the season is over, we quote unquote had Black Monday, even though it was Black Sunday night. And we see who's out and kind of hearing some of the coaching candidates. I just come back to this conversation. What is going on in the NFL? And it really, it always has been kind of a sore topic, I guess. And, you know, my bias is on the table. I'm a coach. I know a lot of coaches. So maybe the bias is on the table there, but it was always weird to me, even before I started coaching, to see how quickly they would fire people. And before, you know, back when I was in high school and stuff, it wasn't as prevalent as it is today, of course. But even still, like, I would say anything under 3 years, it was like, what is going on? Why would you fire him? So now that we're at a point where people don't even get, 2 years, it's ridiculous to me. And, I already know that the number one prevailing thing is, the society we live in. Quite frankly, the social media, internet, instant gratification society. People don't have attention spans, all that good stuff. I got it. But even more than that, we look at the NFL and, you know, I see the NBA and I'm like, okay, it makes sense. In the NBA, it's ran by stars. It's not ran by coaches and those type of personalities. And I don't want to trash on basketball too much. I'm not here to talk trash about basketball. Just personally to me, from the outside looking in, that's a sport that needs the least amount of strategy, than most sports. So there's that too. The coaches just isn't as important in that sport. And so, you get to the NFL, and you see a sport where, of course, the coaching is very much more important and it's different because, yes, you got LeBron James, your team, you know, one of the 5 players is, the best in the world. You got a pretty good shot at doing what you got to do. And the coach doesn't really matter, as they've shown. However, when you get to the NFL, you got 50 plus people plus a coaching staff. I mean, the coaching staffs are bigger than any NBA team. So, it's an orchestra. You orchestrating a really massive unit to one goal, and that's not easy. And so the coaches are more important. However, as we start to see now, the NFL and these owners are starting to act like the NBA. In the NBA, you had coaches fired 10 games into the season. You got coaches fired right before the playoffs start, and they made the playoffs, like just crazy stuff. And so, that is an NBA thing. I didn't really worry about that, but now in the NFL, and it's not as bad yet, but coaches getting fired in the middle of the season just didn't happen. Again, unless it was something off the wall crazy, it just didn't happen. You got the respect and dignity to finish the season out with your team. But now they don't even do that. And then you talk about someone like Arizona Cardinals, they let go of their coach after 1 year. And I know the first reaction is, well, they had bad seasons, they didn't do well. I get all that, but it's about patience. Like, I know people see Sean McVay and the Rams, even to the extent what my team, the Bears, did. And they're just like, oh, whoop, see, look, there it goes. You just flip it around 1 year. It's all it takes. There's so many circumstances that have to come together for that to work, which is why you don't see it a lot, A, and B, even when you do see it, is rarely sustained. And so people, they have such short memories. I mean, without the trees kind of shaking out the way it did on Sunday, the defending champs wouldn't even been in the Super Bowl. And that's not just an Eagles thing. The Super Bowl hangover is very real. Or the Super Bowl, the playoffs, they wouldn't even been in the playoffs. And so that Super Bowl hangover is very real. That's documented way back. And so sustained success is not easy. So all these people that think that you just turn everything around, you're naive. And it's a lot of fans that are naive, but sadly, it's a lot of owners that are naive and they just want an instant gratification. And like I said, a lot of these owners have ties with other franchises and friends in other franchises. So I really think these owners are looking at their NBA counterparts and getting a little jealous and saying, oh, well, we want to fire our coach as soon as things don't look good. And we all know it's about ownership. They make the decisions. You got teams like Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, whose families that have been owning have made it clear their philosophy on sticking with coaches. And so it's not like it's a law that you can't do that. Yes, you can. Even through the bad times, you can. It just depends on ownership. And I think these owners have got a little jealous, little quick, itchy, trigger finger, trying to be like the NBA counterparts where they just fire at will. The problem with that, though, is that if your roster is talented in the NBA and you get rid of the coach again, doesn't matter. You bring another coach, oh well, let's go. But in football, everything can fall apart. And so we look at these firings and I just don't see the justification. I mean, the Brown, like they try to say, okay, well, we're firing Hugh Jackson because of the last 2 years. You tanked. You gave him a gutted roster. You were stacking. You brought in an analytics person to stack picks. You said that's what you were going to do. And then you're going to get upset at the guy for not winning. And then people will try to say, well, the offense turned around as soon as they left. The offensive coordinator left as well. A small outlier, but even still, I don't think that removing Hugh Jackson significantly changed the team. Now, again, that's what we know. Again, if you came out and told us that there was some big riff and like players were actively disengaged because of the coach, then yes, of course, we could talk about that. But on the surface, for what we know, that's not the case. And so I don't, getting rid of a coach doesn't significantly change anything. In the mid-season, I talked about that McCarthy, it doesn't mean anything. But then to a larger extent, getting rid of a coach after just 1 year or a few years, what are you really doing? And so I look at my team, Chicago Bears, as a good example. 12-4 this year after kind of a reboot. Now, the difference is that this wasn't just done in lip service. Much like the Rams, it wasn't just, okay, well, we got the hot coach and that's it. No, they really put in the effort. Now, none of my Bears fans want to hear this, fellow Bears fans. But the truth is we will not know what would happen if Mac wasn't on the team. I have no clue. If we didn't make that trade, if we just would have went business as normal, who knows what would have happened. But the fact is we did, and not just like, okay, we went and got him, but the fact is we had the capital, or we gave up the capital to get him. And that's a move that you got to do, similar to what the Rams had to do to get Sammy Watkins. Not similar, but you know what I mean. And so you brought in this talent through trades. You brought in this talent through draft. You brought in a free agent. You spent the money. And so you really didn't just pay lip service to it. I wouldn't say brought a whole new team, but you brought in something different. And there's a reason when people come in, they usually have to get rid of the veterans and, cancers and all that, because you want to start with a fresher mindset to start over and lay that foundation. But that stuff takes time. And so it's not always going to be quick. And even if it is quick, like the Rams, okay, amazing turnaround, playoff exit. I don't even remember. I know they lost the Falcons. I don't remember if it was first round exit, but playoff exit. We'll see what the Bears do. But even then, like, the Eagles, again, Super Bowl winners next season, circumstances happen. There's a lot that has to come together. Scheduling, injuries, different dynamics, and so your coaching staff stand together, your players and your roster stand. There's so many dynamics that has to come together. And people act as if that the coaches, whenever a team fails, it's just simply something the coach could have did different and it would have fixed it. And that's not always the case. Sometimes you have a bad year. And so that's just what, those circumstances are what they are. And people trying to attribute all the issues to the head coach is just crazy to me. And much in the same way some people do all the success to the head coach or the quarterback. It's crazy. And so that's what that is. But furthermore, what really makes this crazy to me is that every year you go through this cycle of hot candidates. And who are these hot candidates? I said and without fail, the media is going to do that and talk about candidates and what all this and what they can do. They're going to do that because that's their job. They got nothing else to do. But these fans every year buy into the Kool-Aid, no matter who they pick up, who they're looking at. It's just like, yeah, let's do it. And I always ask, who are these candidates? And the answer is, they're the next people that are going to get fired. That's all they are. That you're picking up the next one that's going to get fired. That's that name that was so cool in the offseason. That's going to be the one getting fired in the next offseason. And for the Cardinals, that was legit true. So it's just crazy to me how they talk up these candidates and they talk up these acquisitions and then they turn around and bail on them. And for me, and this goes back to me always saying that coaches should be first and then GMs. I don't understand the backwards mentality of the GM first because, like, again, I'll use my Bears example. If Nagy came in and didn't do a good job or whoever they picked up, it's weird for the ownership and the GM front office to sit there and say, oh, they didn't live up to our standards, we're firing them. You chose them, no. You're the one that sat there at the press conference. Oh, he's so good. He's going to do this and we believe this and we vetted this. You messed up and the owners aren't going to fire themselves. So to me, every time they say a coach doesn't live up to snuff, I wouldn't say every time, but for the most part, I would say then the GMs need to go too. Unless it's a crazy situation again where somebody flew off the handle. If the coach isn't living up to snuff, then GM need to go because you're the one that picked them. And so the fact that they keep tossing coaches away, but leave the same ownership, which is going to happen, but then leave the same front office, it boggles my mind. Like, they always talk about, okay, we're going to look for this. We're going to pick this guy. You're the person that picked the last guy. Why would we trust you? And so, again, I don't think it's always the coach's fault, but if you're going to act like it's the coach's fault, then also blame the person that picked that coach. Because every year we go through this again. Oh, he's a high candidate. Oh, he's such a young this and oh, he's did this and we feel this. And it's just going to be the next person you fire because you have to put the proper resources behind them. Not only the roster, not only, the control, but the time. That's the one thing that no longer exists anymore. People are not giving anyone the time, whether it be rookies and young players or coaches. And it's crazy to me. You look at teams like, okay, Bengals, they fired Marvin Lewis. I can get down with that. I can understand. He had every chance in the world. But to sit here and just fire a person after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, culture takes time. Getting the right roster takes time. Sometimes you're in the wrong situation. Like, it's just the fact of the matter. And again, Bears fans won't like me for saying this. The NFC North was the right time. All three of the other teams fell off to a degree. And so who's to say if Matt Nagy came in during a different era where the Bears were playing a competition, how it would have played out? And you can't always predict those things. It's so many circumstances that come in. And so then you keep firing coaches until you're in the right circumstance. And then you praise that coach as if they did something. And I'm not saying they didn't do anything, but there's some things you can't control. And it'd be so much better for me if teams recognize the actual situation and then went accordingly. But we know that in this era, they don't care about the actual situation. They only care about the perception to the fans. That's all they care about. We want to show the fans we're doing something different. Ooh, look at this new coach. We went and got John Gruden. No offense to the Raiders fan. I'm just saying we went and got this person. Look at this. And it's always this new move because they want the shiny new thing. The new unknown is optimism, is hope. And then that's the exact same thing they turn on within the same year. And now they're out the door. And so I don't know if we'll ever get to the point where people give coaches the respect and time that they deserve outside of certain franchises that choose to. But we need to at least get away from this NBA mentality that we gonna throw away coaches after 1 year. That's ridiculous. That I don't care what we win. I would never fire a coach after 1 year again unless it was something crazy. Because you have to build the roster for them to coach. They have to build the environment and the winning culture. And that stuff takes time. There's too many small things you can't account for. So I don't know. That's the way I feel about it. But anyway, go to the comment section. Let me know what you think about not just how they're firing coaches, how quickly, but the candidate stuff again. You listen to, I forgot to mention, you listen to all these candidates. And then you look at who's winning, and it's the same coaches. People all want this shiny new young thing, the cool thing, whoever's cool. But then you got the same Andy Reid's #1 seed in the AFC. Same guy people could not stop talking crap about in Philly. Could not wait for him to leave. And they're the #1 seed. And it's not like they just got good. They've been in the playoffs. You got Sean Payton, Super Bowl winner, #1 in the NFC, vet. You got Harbaugh getting his Ravens back together. I mean, come on. Of course you got Sean McVay. They're doing their thing. Not saying they're not. But people act like just because you're an experienced coach, veteran coach, that somehow that means you can't win. But yet those are the ones winning. And we can even get started on Bill Belichick. And so these people come from those coaching trees. Matt Nagy from the Reid coaching tree. I always forget the coach's name, Peterson, right? In Philly from the Reid coaching tree. And them from the Holmgren coaching tree. Yeah, so it's crazy how people will disrespect certain coaches, but yet covet the coaches that came from under them. And yeah, they're going to be a little different, but for the most part, you're getting the philosophies from the same coach that you're saying isn't good anymore. And so I don't know. I like to hear what everybody else has to say. Go to the comment section, get the convo started, spread it around, thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you for listening.